Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Conversations with Coco. I'm excited to get started with you guys on today's video. I have some really good information that I want to be able to share in continuing our discussion about weight loss and the journey that I'm on and the journey that I hope you're on as you're watching this video, and how we can try to do our best to be able to optimize whatever goals that it is we want to reach within our fitness and health. So I'll start off by saying, particularly with these kinds of videos, that here's a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a healthcare professional. Please be sure that if you have any medical issues, that you seek out any guidance from your primary care provider in consideration to some things that may be pertaining to you and your health that I have no idea that's going on, and how it may impact your ability to be successful and move forward in your particular weight loss journey, and how you want to move forward. So there's my disclaimer on that. But again, I do have a long-standing history and background in healthcare, and working a lot with clinical research as well, and lots of hospitals in various capacities that required me to be able to understand medical records, reading charts, and to be able to interpret them for various means, clinical and non-clinical. Okay, so let's get started. I'm excited about this particular piece of information today because, again, it's going to largely pertain to a lot of people when it comes to weight loss, because it's one of the most difficult things that we take on. So I have lots of notes. I'm going to be looking at my notes behind this camera for reference to that. If you guys sort of see me looking off, so that you'll know what that is. So as with always, the research that I've done to support definitive pieces of information will be below this video, so feel free to check out those links at the end of the video for additional information, as well as to make sure you like and subscribe to my page here on YouTube, as well as to my page on Facebook, which is also Conversations with Coco. Okay, so let's get started with some actual factuals. Okay, so one of the things that I learned was there was a study done during the 1990s, and it was done on identical twins and related to genes. And what was found was that your genes pretty much determine what your adult size and shape would be. Okay, so what are we saying? How you're built for the entirety of your life is really extremely genetic. Okay, and you have no control over what shape you are unless you go to one of them special doctors who can shape alter you. Otherwise, your shape is predetermined, and we'll get into a little bit more of that later. So what has been learned from that is that those shape determining genes are very, very stubborn. So even if you're a disciplined dieter and you feel like you're doing everything you can do, you're still going to hit a wall at times when it comes to the weight you want to lose, how fast you want to lose it, and all those kinds of things. Each person has actually a genetic baseline, and that genetic baseline establishes and influences where your body naturally wants to be, where it wants to live, and where it is most comfortable in terms of the weight that you carry on yourself. Okay, so your body is going to be very resistant when you are trying to diet and exercise to fight against or with its natural inclination based on your genetic predisposition. So some super important things there. So sometimes you're going to be working really, really hard to lose weight, and your body is going to be working just as hard to compensate for what it has become comfortable with, including what your genetic structure has determined based on where your body has been for a majority of your life. Very, very interesting. So when we figure out that it's really, really hard to lose weight, these are some reasons why, and we have to sort of give ourselves, cut ourselves some slack, but not enough that we, stop from moving forward with whatever our weight loss goal is. Okay. A Harvard medical professor whose name is Richard Kahn, he's a doctor, and he said, no matter what, and I'm quoting here, no matter what your genes or environment might be, you can't gain weight unless you're taking in more calories than you're expending. And that's something that we all know and that we've heard of consistently throughout our lives. So no matter what you do in order to lose weight, you're going to have to go into what is called a caloric deficit, so that you can fight whatever those natural inclinations are where your body wants to naturally sit that we just talked about. So super, super important for you to keep in mind. Okay. However, that being said, it is still within your power to be the healthiest that you possibly can be as an individual based on your predetermined genetic body structure. And there were 3 specific body types that were determined that every human has and falls within, and determines how difficult or how easy it may be for them to lose weight. Okay, I'm going to mention all 3 of them, but at some point in the video, I'm going to mainly focus on the one that specifically that I fall into, because I think a lot of people, and particularly people who are probably watching this video, fall into this particular weight category, and it makes it difficult and challenging for us to lose weight. So here are those 3: endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. Those are the 3. And I listed them in order of the most difficult to lose weight, in my opinion. Ectomorphs tend to have a more rounder body. They tend to carry more weight in certain areas of their body, particularly the lower half of their bodies, the legs, hips, thighs, and backside, and possibly the abdominal area as well, which means our bodies are genetically designed and predispositioned to carry weight in certain areas, and those may in fact be the areas that we're trying to target to lose weight. Sounds like it can be a little bit sucky, but guess what? Doesn't mean that all hope is lost. It just means that we're going to have to do certain things. But guess what? I remind myself, I have a genetic edge when it comes to that, because, you know, in today's climate when we're living in, if food is at a scarcity, I'm getting ready to last longer than those ectomorphs and mesomorphs. No hate or no shade to you guys, but I'm just saying, you know, that deficit in one view is also a plus in another view. Okay, so everything is the lens in which you choose to view it, and you've got to choose to do so positively, which is what I'm gonna absolutely encourage throughout any videos that I post on my page, is to be encouraging and uplifting to you guys so that you can move forward on whatever your journey that you're on. Okay, so let's talk about, now that we know what our genetic disposition may or may be. And let me just say before I move on from those 3 body types, again, they're endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. So you can do some research on this for yourself, so that if you don't fall into the endomorph, which I am, you can find out which one you are and find out some diet and exercise tips that would work for you. Okay. But here are some important points to consider, and this is where we get into some of what I'm saying is not so clinical and backed by science and research. Some of it is. But some of it, quite frankly, is my opinion, because we have to give some room and some flexibility for that. Because what I always like to remind people, you know, when I'm at work or when I'm teaching, from a professional standpoint, is, you know, medicine is called practice for a reason. It's called practice because things are changing and everything is not a one size fit all. And what works for one person doesn't work for another, and so on and so forth. And so just like the doctor has to be open and flexible in how he deals with you as an individual, you have to remember to be open and flexible with yourself when you're hearing pieces of information, how you can best apply it. But we'll go more on that, because I've got a couple of points to share with you guys to sort of help move on. Okay, so the first thing is, and again, some of this you're going to have heard before. It's not going to be new information, but it is a very strong reminder of what you need to do to move forward, and things to consider as you decide how best to tailor something that works for you. Okay, once you establish healthy eating habit and exercise routine, you must maintain it. You can't stop because you've reached your goal. For example, my goal is to lose 35 pounds, right? Once I hit my goal weight, I can't just say now I want to stop and I'm going to do everything that I've been doing, because otherwise you're going to be one of those yo-yo people. You're going to always be chasing losing weight. You really have to make this mentality a lifestyle and say, once I get here, how have I developed habits along the way that's going to help me to maintain this so I don't get back here. Okay. Doesn't mean you can't have cheat times. Everybody has that food that they really like, and I have several. I'm not going to list them here or talk about them here, but I will say one is cheesecake. And I'm a baker. I love to bake homemade goods. It's something that makes me feel good. I like sharing with people. I like selling it. So sometimes people buy cakes from me. And it's something that's very therapeutic for me. I can eat some of those cakes, but I can't let that, I can't get on a runaway train with eating cakes just because I love to bake them, right? If you're cheating in excess, right, you have to prepare yourself to put in extra exercise, and then in the days and weeks following, work really, really hard on the rest of your normal dietary or eating lifestyle to make up and compensate for the extra cheating that you've done. You've got to figure out a way to sort of balance that. So what we have a tendency to do, myself included, we hit ourselves over the head when we have a week that's a bad week, or when we have a month where, for instance, I was dieting really hard in the last 30-40 days. I didn't meet, any of my weight loss goals in the way that I was measuring and calculating it, and I was very, very disappointed. And honestly, I had a cheat day that lasted too long, and now it's time for me to get back on the wagon, like I call it, right? And it's not that I've necessarily eaten poorly, but I still have chosen to intake more things that I know are not consistent with the lifestyle that I'm trying to live long term when it comes to both my nutrition as well as the exercise that I want to be able to maintain, to not just to hit my goal, but again, to sustain it as well. All right. Here's something that we don't talk about a lot that I think is super important, is our mental and emotional health, and how that plays into the diet and the exercise and all the things that we want to do and we're trying to do when it comes to the health and fitness journey that we've decided to put ourselves on. If you're a woman, there are hormonal changes and imbalances that impact your weight. And honestly, for men too, the level of testosterone, if you don't have enough of it, is going to impact your ability to be able to lose weight or to maintain it and all that kind of things. If it's low, there's lots of things that can occur there, and that would be something else that I would encourage if you're a man to sort of look into, how your testosterone level factors into your overall health and your ability to maintain good weight and things like that, right? So super, super important. Our mental health plays a huge role in how we do that, because if we don't have the right mindset and reasoning or healthy reasoning behind, a good fitness journey, that increases the tendency that we're going to relapse and have issues. And again, I can say that from personal experience, because when I lost all the weight that I wanted to lose, and I was at that point and all I wanted to do was maintain and tone up, life hit me, because I'm a human being just like you guys, right? Things happen. And also a medication that I was taking also affected my ability to be able to keep off the weight that I had lost, in addition to some things I was going through mentally and emotionally that I had to do some work on to shed. And we forget about those aspects of our mental health that impact our everyday life that we try to separate and pretend it doesn't. No, you can't separate. They're all lumped in one big package, and you have to consider the totality of it, because all of it is related to your overall health, guys. Like, seriously, you got to feel me on this, and you got to rock with me on this one, and incorporate those kinds of things as part of your lifestyle and health change as well. Okay. So you have to balance both, again, the diet and the exercise. You can't do one without the other. It's pointless. It will be helpful to start somewhere, but it will be pointless if you're not really doing both. If you have to choose one to work on first to get comfortable with, then I'm going to strongly suggest you work on the diet first. Because I said earlier, caloric intake when it comes to your genetic disposition is super, super important. So you have to figure out what food you like. You have to look at what's healthy. You got to figure out what you like. You have to figure out what you can eat. And you got to figure out how to balance all of those kinds of things out and what you can cut out, particularly for me as an endomorph, because anything fatty is going to tend to want to sit on my body, because that is my genetic predisposition. And it is a lot of you out there as well, okay? Also, next point, unless you've been at your ideal weight, you may not know where exactly you want to land. You just may be picking a number because you went to the doctor and he told you or she told you that you need to fall within a certain range for your height and build and all that kind of stuff, and to meet BMI requirements, right? So here's my personal advice that I found that works, because again, I've done this before. My advice is to focus on losing weight, losing enough weight to where you are happy with what you look like, but that you also have a good balance of muscle and fat. Okay, that is super important. Too many times, again, we get caught up in the number that the doctors tell us because of those charts. For me, the number says I should be, for my height, because I'm tall for a woman, says I should be like between 160 and 168 pounds. I have been that weight a long time ago, pre kids, pre everything, pre. I'm just gonna say it was a long time ago because the sister ain't a spring chicken, but she ain't old either. Okay, long time ago. And when I was at that weight, I did not like the way I looked. I actually felt like I looked very sickly. My face was super drawn. It was sunk in. And yeah, I met the height and chart and BMI requirements, even though honestly I didn't have the muscle mass. I didn't like the way that I looked. A good weight for me personally, where I am happy and comfortable, runs between 210 and 220. Now that sounds like a lot to some people, but that's my choice and that's my business. So I'm gonna rock with what's comfortable with me, and I'm gonna encourage you to figure out what's comfortable with you. So you can start depending on how much weight you feel like you have to lose, and say, I wanna get here. But if you get to a point where you feel like, hey, I really, really like this weight, even though it's not as low as I want it to be, stop there. And then just work on maintaining and work on building muscle mass and work on continuing your diet and your exercise. Again, super, super important, because at the end of the day, you need to be happy with your weight before anybody else can be concerned about being happy with your weight. Because when you are happy and you are confident and people see that, no matter what that number on that scale says, people will rock with how you feel about yourself. Because at the end of the day, everybody ain't gonna like you anyway. But guess what? I'm still cute though, so I don't really care. And that's really how I feel. And people who really know me know that that's the A1 truth, okay? All right, so again, focus on where you are comfortable at, right? I talked a little bit before about medicines. Some of those affect our ability to lose weight, particularly with women. Birth control, if you're on birth control pills and implants and all of those kinds of things affect our ability as women to lose weight. You know, we don't want the kid or children or whatever it is. You know, I'm at that age where, you know, for me, in my mind and in my opinion, I'm past the childbearing age. I want no more babies. I have 2 lovely children. I am halfway to empty nest. I have 1 out. I have 1 teenager who's still at home, just had a birthday yesterday. I have a 15-year-old at home. I am perfectly happy with the 2 children I have. It's a wrap for me. So if you're taking birth control to prevent that, whether you have young ones or whether your children are grown or whether you're somewhere in between, that's definitely for a lot of us women going to affect how well we can lose weight or not. And I've been in that boat, and I'm back here again to try to, again, counterbalance those kinds of things. And it's going to take a lot more work this time than the last time because I'm older, you know, and because of genetic predispositioning. It is what it is. That's going to be our word of the day, genetic predispositioning, right? And so always consult your doctor again when medications are involved as to what you can take and what you cannot take, what you can come off of, how that affects the food that you eat. Because again, I'm not a medical doctor. I can't, you know, attest to and include things in terms of if you have, you know, health issues that you're battling in addition to just wanting to lose weight. You absolutely have to take those things into consideration because that could very significantly impact the medications you take, how your body metabolizes those medications, and how you are able or not able to respond to be able to losing weight because of how those medications interact in your body with your cellular form and structure. So now let's talk a little bit about food, right? When you look at a lot of these diets online and people telling you what to lose weight and what to eat and not to eat, it can get very, very overwhelming, especially when you're looking at the list and half the stuff on the list you've never even heard of, which means you've never eaten it before. And some of the stuff on there you go, I flat out don't like. This is not stuff that I would eat. Well, guess what? You have to find out what you will eat from those food lists, right? Even if that means you have to eat a lot of the same things in the beginning, but you just vary how you cook it. You've got to get comfortable with that. And a lot of it is a mindset, right? And a mindset. We want to eat, the juicy cheeseburger with all the toppings. We want to eat the French fries. It's fried in oil, because that's typically how it's going to be. We want to eat the cakes and the desserts if that's our thing. My thing is bread. I love breads. I want to eat breads. Well, guess what? For this endomorphic predispositioning, bread is not the greatest thing. I've had to learn to cut out a lot of bread. I've done really, really well with it. And I've substituted it for different kinds of breads that are less, I'll say, traumatic to my body type as an endomorph. But it took some time and getting used to, and me playing with different recipes and experimenting with eating different foods that I hadn't eaten before that turned out that I actually liked, but I had to figure out how to cook it. But guess what? Yes, you have to cook. You have to cook. You're going to have to do that. So in order to maintain a healthy diet. But again, you just got to do it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about exercise now. When you look at these routines, you go, I can't do that. My body won't, my stamina won't, my agility won't, my flexibility won't, my strength won't. But guess what? A lot of times mine either. And what I had to psych myself up into doing and saying is, I'm not trying to do the exercise to look pretty in the form and the shape of the exercise. Your goal should be to try to maintain that. But your goal is to get the exercise done no matter how difficult it may be. If they say do 30 seconds of this particular exercise and do it straight, but if you can't do it straight and you got to pause for 2 or 3 seconds and then keep going and pause for 2 or 3 till you get to the 30 seconds, keep going. Try to maintain the form and the structure. Don't try to do it fast, because that's what the little skinny girl or bulked up guy is doing in the video when he's showing you how the exercise should look. Forget all that. Just say, I'm going to look at the exercise. I'm going to do my best to do it. I'm going to set the timer and I'm going to do these sets. Period. I'm telling you, that's what I had to do last week, working on some core exercises. It wasn't easy. And I promise you, if I had to record myself, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. But guess what? I did it and I felt the difference, and I felt my core being engaged because I felt that appropriate pain that I need to feel, even though I didn't do the exercises perfectly. So don't give up. Modify the exercise how you need to until you can do it the way the form and structure requires, and give yourself the room and the latitude to know it's going to take you time to build up your body to a place where you can be able to do it like that. Just don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Okay? If you don't see progress, don't give up. Excuse me, because again, like I mentioned in the outset, research for your body type and figure out what you can do to make changes that are going to attack it in a way that's different so that you can see the results next time, okay? But you have to be honest with yourself about what you've been doing. You've got to do a number of different things. Example, if there's no weight loss and no weight training, I'm looking at my note back there. It doesn't make any sense to me right now. But the point is, be honest what you're doing about what you've been doing about yourself. If you haven't had any weight loss and you've been doing very little strength training, that's what I meant to say, then you may have to include that. For me, I was doing a ton of cardio to be regular and consistent, just to exercise every day. But I know my body type, and I know before what I had to do when I was successful losing weight. I have to include strength training in that. I can't just have the cardio exercises. The endomorphic body type actually requires that you have both in certain limitations, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about the scale, okay? Don't weigh yourself a ton. You will depress yourself. You've heard this before, and I'm going to say it again because I say it to myself often. Don't weigh yourself frequently, okay? Maybe not more than once a month, so that you can see some sort of progress and feel good about where you're going and what you're doing. Also, what I'm doing differently this time that I've never done before to help measure if I'm having a level of success is I'm doing body measurements. So I have this lovely, ugly drawing that I made, or outline of my body, and I did I measured myself. I measured around both my arms. I measured around the high of my waist, my hips, my thighs. I even measured my calves. And I did it in centimeters versus inches, actually, so that because it's a smaller measurement, it would be easier to tell if I'm making any particular progress. Again, not more than once a month. If you can get somebody to help you make the measurements so that they're as accurate as possible, write them down and keep a track of that. But don't do it in such a way that it's taking up too much time and you're stressing yourself out because you don't feel like you're making the progress you want to make. Okay? Now, talking a little bit about food. Let's talk about what goes in must come out. All right? You should be having regular bowel movements. Research says 3 times a day to 3 times a week is good. For me, I go at least once a day. And I find it's easier to do so because I changed my diet and foods are not sticking with me because I have the right amount of water, right, to make it malleable enough, to use a term, to come out. And everybody is different. My son, he's young. He has a very, very high metabolism. He's in the bathroom multiple times a day. Everybody is different, but you still have to make sure that what's going in comes out and it's not sitting in your body collecting and toxifying your insides because you're unable to let it go, right? Reward yourself for meeting goals, not with food. I've been guilty of that, right? Or, if you do, you got to learn to eat smaller portions of something and be satisfied with not eating the whole thing. So, but you got to do that. You got to find some sort of reward. Maybe you take yourself to some activity that you wanted to do and you're going to pay for that activity because you reached this goal, right? You decided you wanted to, in the month, you wanted to be able to lose 10 pounds. You lost 12. Yay. Let's celebrate and do something good for ourselves, right? So how do I know when I'm actually in good health? And this is a question I got from one of the person who follows my page on Facebook from my last video. And I found some really good information thanks to him asking me for that and doing research for this video. When you have thick hair and strong nails, when you have lots of energy and you don't constantly feel like you're being depleted and you're tired all the time, you're sleeping well. When you go to sleep, you're sleeping through the night. You wake up and you feel rested and re-energized. Also, here's another important one. When you can manage your emotions and when you can manage the emotions of other people, that is super important. If you are not in good health, because I talked about earlier, your mental and emotional health is super important. When you find that you're struggling, everything irritates you and people are just doing things and you can't seem to react appropriately to those things, that's a sign that your health is not in a good place, okay? Your skin looks good. I'm going to tell you one thing that did work for me, even though I didn't lose any weight last month, is that my skin had a dramatic change. Do y'all see me? I'm telling you. I got on a little makeup, but I'm telling you, a sister's skin look good. I'm telling you, it looks absolutely fabulous. I don't have the breakouts like I used to have. A lot of the dark spots started to clear up. It's just, I'm glowing. I'm just saying, and it's fabulous and I'm loving it. So again, you have to pay attention to the small rewards and the small things that occur as the changes you're making. So it's an encouragement for me to move forward, right? Also, you're paying attention to what you eat and you're exercising regularly. That's part of knowing when you're in good health because it's the maintenance and sustaining that over the long term. You also have some muscle definition because we talked about the 3 body types, endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. Each of them carry a weight and fat very, very differently. So you have to have some muscle definition and you have to carry some level of fat, and when you have that balance and when you definitely have some muscles, okay? Again, you're having regular bowel movements and your urine is clear. And most important to me, I think for you guys, is when you are at the weight that you feel most comfortable and all of those things that I just mentioned are in place. The research that I did, there were actually 50 things, but I pulled out the top things that I feel that are most important that people look at to know that they are in a good place and figure out if they are really feeling good, not just because they've reached the weight that the doctor said that they need to lose and be at, but they're at a weight that they're happy and they're comfortable and they're energized, and you're exercising regularly and you're eating well and you're enjoying life with people. You're able to sustain and create relationship with people when you want to, for those of us, right? Depending if you're an introvert or extrovert. And keeping all of those kinds of things in mind, okay? So make sure you check out what your body type is, particularly for those of us who are endomorphs. The last thing I'm going to conclude in saying that even though building muscle may be difficult for those of us who are endomorphs, don't lose heart. Don't get discouraged. We just have to put in a little bit more work. Doing cardio and incorporating cardio with HIIT for us ectomorphs 2 to 3 times a week is super important. And also focus on doing weight training that engages large muscle groups like your legs, your back, your arms, and your core. I'm going to say that again. Focus on weight training that target your large muscle groups like your legs, back, arms, and core. Super important for folks like us. And I was doing this all along, not even knowing that I had this particular body type. And they tell us not to spot train, but you kind of spot train when you exercise. So I never understood that part, but that's a whole other video. I'm not going to go there on that. And make sure you're doing those things. Again, in some of the links I have below, there is a suggested exercise routine. That's a HIIT exercise routine that's really good that I'm going to do, that the American Council on Exercise recommends, or ACE, as the article calls it, that I'm going to incorporate this upcoming week in my exercise routine to try to, again, move forward and jumpstart everything. So I hope you guys found this video super helpful. I appreciate you guys coming back for another video and watching and rocking with your girl. More content to come on various topics, again, outside of weight loss, because again, we're looking at who we are holistically. I'm looking at who I am holistically. And while I've done a lot of great work with myself, there's a lot more I want to do for myself. And I want you guys to join me on this journey, figure out what you need to do for yourself, and let's rock this thing and kick it in the butt together. So again, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my page, and watch out for more videos. And I look forward to reading any comments and any feedback that you guys have for me. And if you have any suggestions for some other videos that you would like me to do some research and share that research as well as my opinion on, I'm happy to do that. Again, at the end of the day, our goal is to be a whole person, not a whole person, as in H-O-L-E, right? Be whole, W-H-O-L-E, versus whole, H-O-L-E, all right? So that's going to be one of my new hashtags, whole, not whole, all right? Until next time, I'll see you guys.